What were the implications of the Restoration? Now, although some may believe that the only result of the Restoration was the reinstallment of the monarchy, or perhaps that it just changed what happened in the past and went everything just on the way it was, the Restoration was a major political event that had many historical implications. But what were these implications? Well, firstly, it ended the Puritan hope for a Republican England, and it restored the Stuart line. Secondly, it transformed art and society, and brought about a decadence culture in England. And lastly, it brought Protestant-Catholic tensions to a head, and led to 50 years, half a century, of conflict. Let us start by looking at the aspect of the Puritan hope for a republic. If you remember, the Puritans strongly wanted a republic, and by strongly, I meant they fought in a revolution to gain one. And although they were successful, it did not last after Oliver Cromwell's death. And this may seem strange at first, as there weren't any radical cavaliers trying to fight back for the king. See, the Restoration is different because of the people who brought it about. As Dr. Parker puts it, quote, "The Restoration was one of the strangest revolutions in history, in that it was largely made possible by moderates," end quote. Now, these moderates didn't want either of the extremists, be it the Puritans or the Cavaliers, well, the extremists in those groups, in charge. And so, led by Edward Hyde, they brought back Charles II to be king again. Now, Charles II was quite wise, and he knew that Parliament had given him his power. And so, he ruled with a light touch. If he abused his power, Parliament would quickly take it away. And so Parliament, having the full amount of power, decided that they wanted to undo all the war and violence that had been brought upon England by the Puritan Revolution. So what they decided the best option to do would basically be just to rewind time, make things the way they were before the Revolution. So they undid Charles I's reforms. As you know, many of his reforms were unpopular, which is what brought about the Puritan Revolution. They also restored lands seized by the Puritans and returned them to the Anglican Church from where they came. They disbanded the army, since that clearly hadn't gone well in the past. And lastly, they forgave the crimes of everyone on both sides, except for those that had signed the death warrant of Charles I. So these reforms were what made the Puritan Revolution's hopes die out. See, unlike other acts of bringing back an old government, they didn't harshly punish and hunt down everyone that had originally supported it, as that would have created a stronger feeling of support among the public. Instead, they just tried to erase all those changes, wipe them out, and it was very effective. And as a result, the Puritans no longer had a great hope for a Republican England. But beyond that, there were many other changes brought about by Parliament that helped bring about the end of this Puritan hope. Firstly, they ended the freedom of the press. Although this is one of the more controversial moves, controlling the press is a very effective way of controlling information. They also passed the 5 Mile Act. Separatists had to be at least 5 miles away from the parish unless they signed an oath of loyalty to the king. They also brought back the Book of Common Prayer and the Act of Uniformity. This meant that any hope for a Republican England was dead. But the implications of the Restoration went beyond that. Charles II return from France also brought about a culture of decadence. Why was this? Well, this is mostly because of Charles II himself. And we must take a look at his life to understand this. Now, he had spent a large amount of time in France, and he wasn't doing a huge amount of political activities there. And you'll also note that he ruled with a light touch, which meant that he had plenty of time to devote to personal activities. And there's one other thing to consider. He was given an annual salary of £1,000,000. Now, if anybody has that sort of salary today, they're doing well off. But back then, that was equivalent to billions of dollars a year. And as such, he could spend it as extravagantly, as lavishly, and as decadently as he wanted with no repercussions. He loved gambling, dog breeding, hunting, horse racing, and spending that money of his. And although he might not have had any child as an heir to him, his 13 illegitimate children show he wasn't infertile. And perhaps one of the best examples of his decadent lifestyle was the story of Thomas Blood. Thomas Blood was an Irish citizen who tried to steal the crown jewels, but was quickly caught and put on trial before Charles II. But Thomas Blood impressed Charles II so much that instead of executing him like the criminal he was, Charles II gave him a £500 a year salary along with a castle in Ireland. This was clearly not the right move if you're trying to run a country justly, but definitely the right move if you're trying to run a country decadently. But one more thing that needs to be brought up: the Restoration Theatre. Quote, Restoration Theatre became a way to celebrate the end of Puritan rule with its strict moral codes, end quote. Christy Ferris is saying this because of the ways that Puritan rule was brought about. They had very strict moral codes and allowed for no room for any sort of fun. So when Charles II came back from France, he brought with him a love for lavish and often immoral theater. Comedies were center stage, and tragedies were rewritten to have happy endings. They rejected reason and said to just enjoy life. Don't try and figure it out and bog yourself down like that. And perhaps on a good note, women were finally allowed a chance to act. But in conclusion, this shows that there was a large and extravagant lifestyle prominent throughout England after the Restoration. But not all the implications of the Restoration were necessarily beneficial for England, as it brought the Protestant Catholic tensions to a head. Once again, this can be traced back to Charles II, and more specifically, the Treaty of Dover. The Treaty of Dover was signed by Charles II to make England a Catholic friend of France. Well, why would he do that, if he was a devout Protestant? Well, he wasn't necessarily that devout of a Protestant. After all, his time spent in France was under a Catholic France, and he had made close friends with Louis XIV. So, when Louis XIV gave him this offer, he had a couple of reasons to accept. His time in France had made him sympathetic to Catholicism, and perhaps more importantly, Louis XIV offered him an additional £250,000 a year. That was more than enough motivation for him. And so he tried to pass laws to be more tolerant to Catholics. However, the Cavaliers did not like this. They were the members of the high members of the Anglican Church, and did not want Charles II allowing any more any upstarts to their rule. So Parliament, ruled by these Cavaliers, would stop Charles II at every occasion to be more lenient to the Catholics. And even though when Charles II died, he converted to Catholicism like he promised, his changes that he promised were largely failures. As Nahum Tate puts it, in a climate intensely hostile to Catholicism, the prospect of a Catholic succession to the throne was unpopular. End quote. But what was this Catholic succession? Well, this was James II, Charles II's brother. Now, as you remember, Charles II had no heir. So when he died, the throne went to James II, a Catholic, 55 years old, and childless. And although he wasn't popular putting Catholics in charge, the people decided he's 55, too old to have a child, so there's no real threat. If you have any idea where this is going, you'll have soon figured out that before long, his wife was pregnant. This was too much. The Cavaliers and the Puritans did not want the Catholics back in England. And so, they called for William of Orange to take over. This was the Glorious Revolution, and although it ended the Catholic rule of James II, it was by no means an end to the violence between Protestants and Catholics. So in conclusion, the end of the Puritan hope for a Republican England, the culture of the decadence brought about by Charles II, and the fact that Protestant-Catholic tensions were brought to a head were all major implications of the Restoration, and showed that it was much more than just a simple restoration of the monarchy.